All right, so let's pick up on the electricity part of the President and what he's just said. He said it's a very difficult and precarious situation. Certainly is. Eskom ramping up power cuts to stage 4 until Friday morning. The power utilities' explanations regularly relate to breakdowns and planned maintenance as some of the issues. But just when will the grid be stabilised, and is there more that Eskom could be doing? I'm joined now by Hilton Trollip, Honorary Associate of the Energy Systems Research Group at UCT. Thank you so much for joining us. So we keep hearing this phrase, ongoing generation capacity shortages. Is that just a really complicated way of saying Eskom is not making enough electricity?
Well, they aren't making enough electricity because they can't, and they can't because 16,000 megawatts of their coal-fired power stations are in unplanned maintenance. And what unplanned maintenance means, I likened this the other day in an interview with John Mathan to trucks on the road. And if you had a fleet of 100 trucks and you were Eskom, 32 of those trucks would be off the road. And they're running they would like to only have 20, which is bad enough. And the trouble is, if you've got 20 trucks off the road, your trucks are in such bad condition that you simply, it's really difficult to know when more will go off the road. And when they go off the road, they're next to the side of the road. They're difficult to fix. You don't know what's gone wrong. You've got to send out crews. You've got to, and they've just got a whole lot of old trucks. They've got the equivalent of 100 really old trucks. Some of them really badly built, the new ones. Actually, the new ones are terribly built, Medupi and Kusile. They're design faults, construction faults, corruption in the construction. So they've just got a whole bad set of kit. And
wow.
That's not going to go away.
Anytime soon.
Yeah. No, and this is what I've been saying for a couple of years now. Every time they say, what's the immediate term solution? And of course, the politicians demand quick fixes, but there's no quick fix to this.
I mean, in fact, I think it was Eskom themselves that said we've got to prepare ourselves for 5 years of this. So I'm presuming we're all going to become basic experts by the time all of this is over. It was interesting what the President just said, and you're going to help me with this. He said something along the lines that there's 42,000 megawatts capacity at Eskom, which I presume is what we can and should be able to produce in terms of electricity. But in terms of the 16,000 megawatts and then the extra 5,000 of megawatts of planned maintenance, that comes up to about half the capacity. Is he actually telling us that we're basically half our grid is down?
That's what. Well, it's not the grid. Luckily, the grid is very well managed, but it's the power stations connected to the grid that are broken. I mean, just quite simply, they're broken. They broke down, and they're busy being fixed. And Sally, it is Sally I'm speaking to. Sorry, I can't see you.
It is Sally. Yes, I'm sorry. It's just our system, but it is Sally. Yes, and we can see you fine.
Sally, one of the nice things about modern Eskom is they're pretty transparent on the condition, what's happening. And they produce regular data. And for the past 6 years, the so-called energy availability factor, that's a shorthand for saying what percentage of your fleet is available out of the total, has steadily declined. So 6 years ago, it was about 75%. Then it went down to 70%. It's currently sitting at just over 50%. And it's a steady, there's nothing new here. There's no big surprise here.
So let's perhaps, I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions. First of all, rain seems to make things worse, or is it just a coincidence? I mean, we heard about wet coal. Is that in the past now? Has that been sorted out?
It doesn't look like it's been sorted out. It's not as far as the wet coal goes, but in terms of the power station coal supply systems, there's been a number of breakdowns of conveyor belts. Also, they're breakdowns in the actual coal supply. So a whole lot of new coal suppliers have been contracted, and they bring the coal on by road. It used to go by rail, or it was right next to the power station. And they're all new in the game, and they're not that reliable. So the first load shedding in 2008 was largely, it was over Christmas holidays, and basically a whole lot of the coal suppliers went on holiday and they didn't supply coal. And that was one of the reasons for the first big breakdown. And that hasn't been sorted out. Eskom's sitting without long-term coal supply contracts. And in fact, I don't want to, but it is troubling, but we do know that coal mines for the power stations need to be developed. And because there's not enough long-term supply contracts, they're not investing in the coal mines either. So that's another whole issue.
All right.
But, Sally, can I mention the solution to this?
Yes, please do. And then I have another question I have to ask you.
Okay, but I'll say what the solution is. South Africa has got a capacity expansion plan called the Integrated Resource Plan. In that, there is 20 gigawatts of new wind and photovoltaic power. That will be the least cost, a large proportion of the least cost solution to this problem. But since 2015, not a single large new wind or PV installation has been contracted. And that sits firmly with the Department of Minerals and Energy. So as the situation has been getting worse and worse and worse, we haven't had one new contracted power station, coal, gas, wind, or PV, a big one by government. And we could have been doing this all along, but because of whatever's going on at the Department of Minerals and Energy, nothing's happening.
I think you are at least the second analyst to mention the Department of Minerals as being where things stick. I have to ask you this. Former Eskom CEO Jacob Maroga suggested over the weekend, and this was in response to a media release from Eskom, saying that there's been a big Zambian breakdown in power, and that has caused problems in Cahora Bassa, which is in Mozambique, and he talks to a point-to-point HVDC link between us and Mozambique. He paints it as Eskom doesn't know what they're doing. I don't really need to know what those things mean, but you're an electrical engineer. Is Jacob Maroga right when he says that they're speaking nonsense, that Eskom's speaking nonsense to blame Zambia for part of their power problems at the moment?
So what happens, all of the grids of the region are connected, and if there's any sudden loss of generating capacity on the grid anywhere, in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, South Africa, it causes what's called a low frequency event. And when frequencies drop below a certain level, certain things just start switching off. It's automatic so that they don't get damaged. And initial indications, and I have no hard evidence on this, but Chris Yelland, who has yet to ever be faulted on his information, has suggested that this is the most likely explanation, that we don't know what happened in Zambia, but it's unlikely that Eskom have deliberately misinformed us that we lost generation capacity in Zambia, in the region, and a low-frequency event, and then the connector from Cahora Bassa switched off. So I believe that that's a highly credible explanation for losing Cahora Bassa link.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. That was Hilton Trollip, Honorary Associate of the Energy Systems Research Group at UCT, telling us this is going to be with us for a while.